particularly when there's a little bit of rain. And that just goes to show that our infrastructure is in desperate need of upgrading, and it is, in some parts, quite obsolete and needs total replacement. We have been meeting different partners to help solve some of these issues. And today, we are pleased that through and under the leadership of President Advocate Boko, we have this partnership, this strategic partnership, that will indeed ensure that our commitment to fostering inclusive development, ensuring that every Botswana benefits from the country's progress, and that there are jobs that are created in a sector, because as we know, energy is a main driver of industrialization. And so when we are able to reaffirm reliable, forward-looking, and determined nation and a development agenda, we certainly can be able to ensure that Botswana regains its shine, not just from diamonds, but from those in the sky. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to conclude by highlighting that we are proud to have a partnership with companies that have a wide range of skills, that have experience in the areas that we have selected to engage in. And we will be sharing with you shortly a press statement that also details the experiences of the businesses that we will be signing this MOU with. And I look forward to the implementation and the continued partnerships with the groups that are here today. But I want to, in last, thank once again my colleagues that have been involved in this process and our partners, and look forward to a bright future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kenewendo, for that detailed situation of the power supply in Botswana, the government outline on what they want to do to scale over these problems. Can we just give her one round of applause for that? At this point in time, I would ask Madam Kenewendo to proceed to the signing table. Madam Kenewendo?
I'm not sure that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what's supposed to happen.
Miligani?
Miligani.
No.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Kenewendo. Thank you to our partners from Turkey. It's a beautiful moment indeed. At this point in time, I would then proceed to ask, it's my singular pleasure and honor to invite the President of the Republic of Botswana, Advocate Duma Gideon Boko, as the leader and the visionary, to come and give us a few insights on what we've just done right now.
Please take your seats and accept my apologies. It's not me who demands that you stand. Apparently, that's the way things are done. I apologize. But thank you very much for being here today to witness this event. I'm going to simplify the discourse, bring it down to brass tacks and say, we are a net importer of electricity. We struggle with generation. We are not generating anywhere near enough electricity for our needs. This is why we must look elsewhere to supplement what we generate. So we have a shortage. We therefore have to wrestle with this problem because it has serious financial implications for the country. This shortage forces us to look in particular at this point to South Africa and import electricity into the country. Of course, we import in certain parts from Namibia, but it's predominantly South Africa that we import from at huge costs. I think a ballpark figure would take us to about a few billions, 2 billion, 3 billion, thereabouts, of expenditure on imported electricity. We need to deal with this. The other problem in relation to the supply of power is obviously the transmission infrastructure. So where we survive on the generation part, we still face problems on the transmission part. So we have therefore to upgrade our transmission infrastructure. So when there's a power outage, it is either very little power has been generated or sourced, or there's a problem with the transmission lines. We need to deal with these twin challenges. Morupule A, which has been operating, reached the end of its life. It was upgraded and its life extended by 7 years. Those 7 years will run out in 2027. So Morupule A is left with 2 years. In 2027, therefore, ordinarily we will have no Morupule A. It will be mothballed, no longer exist. That would be the fate of Morupule A, meaning our generation capability is reduced, it is diminished. We have had persistent problems with Morupule B. It has never operated optimally. It has always been suboptimal, with the result that we face these persistent shortages of electricity. These are the realities with which we must live or die if we are not careful, or the economy will collapse. We have to address this problem. The country has to be lit. Industries have to be powered. The mines have to run. Plants across have to operate. They need electricity. We have had to look to investors, and we sat and we profiled, we prepared a profile of the ideal investor for us. And we determined that we needed serious investors for the long haul. Investors who are prepared to invest for the long term, not investors who come looking for quick and easy profit to go. We want those who are here to stay. And we had to rigorously assess all investors that presented themselves to us. And it is out of that rigorous process of distillation that we have these eminent investors, each one in their own right, a big player in business and in the industry. One is a $150 billion company, respected, upstanding in the world. The other is a $20 billion company, and the others reputable, solid business entities that have come together into a consortium that partners with us to address a number of problems. One, the generation problem. Morupule B will be subjected to a serious reassessment, the end of which will be its refurbishment to bring it not just to optimality but to super optimality. Take it from being suboptimal to making it super optimal. That means it will be at 95% and above. That's about 600 megawatts of power at the best of times. Morupule B. Morupule A, which would otherwise be mothballed in 2 years, will also, from the technology that will be deployed, now enjoy a renewed lease on life. The consortium conservatively states that that extended period of life will be anything from 10 to 15 years. They are still in the process of refining this and the technology to deploy. It actually is possible to stretch it to 25 years. So what we would otherwise lose in 2 years and mothball, take out of existence entirely, will be super optimal, will enjoy an extended lease on life, giving us assurance of sustainable, reliable power generation. This is one of the prominent features of this deal that the minister and the consortium have just signed. Morupule B, I said, would also be super optimal. We will then have other aspects of this deal which involve Minergy, as another phase, and ultimately this partnership will carry us to the last phase, which is a coal to liquid phase, where we'll be able to generate our own fuel, diesel, and other petroleum byproducts in country. Technology will be internalized. They will deploy cutting-edge, world-class technology in Botswana, in the process of which skills will be transferred. The economy, in terms of its ability to generate power, will be stabilized and strengthened. And that should make for sustainable growth, because that will then create opportunities for other directions and avenues of development. This is what we are dealing with here today. These investors believe firmly in these projects. They believe fervently in them. Ordinarily, an investor coming in might say to us, we need a sovereign guarantee in respect of these investments we are going to put in. They have come in and said, we don't need. In fact, one of them said, if there is any need at any point for any guarantee, we are prepared to put it down. Seldom in the world will you ever encounter an investor who is so invested in a project that they are prepared to risk in that manner. This is the caliber of investors we have in front of us here today. They have staked their resources, they have staked their reputations, they are international players. And they have stepped up and said, we are partnering with Botswana. This is a monumental step of advance in our quest, not just to grow our economy, but to mobilize foreign direct investment into the country at a scale right now that will rise to $3 billion US, and in the fullness of time will reach 5.5 billion US dollars. This is real. This is concrete. It is tangible. We are dealing with investors who have already put boots on the ground. They already have begun. Their due diligence has begun in earnest, so that they then craft and fashion appropriate solutions for these issues that we've raised. They will also be investing in transmission infrastructure, which will include interconnectors to enable us to export to Zambia and further afield. It is important for us to understand this. I wanted to simplify it this way so that you appreciate it sounds in real impacts on lives and livelihoods, in advancing the economy and ultimately raising our GDP. This is what it's about. When we are now self-sufficient and we have exceeded our own needs, and this deal will place us in that space, we will be able to have about 760 megawatts of power to export, for export. We will also be able to export to South Africa, from which we now are importing. Now, when we save the about 3 billion or so that we regularly spend on imported power, when we save it, we make it available for other projects and uses in our society. The best money is the money you have in your hands, not that which you go looking for. And so if the money that we've been spending, we've been forced to spend, we will no longer spend on importation of power. It means we save it. We keep it in our hands. We can then apply it to other needs of our country. Not only that, we will then be able to export and raise more. This is what this quest is about. And I just wanted us to understand it this way and appreciate the enormity of this deal, this partnership, made up of folks like Ulsan, a company that doesn't just speak, it acts, it moves, it puts in resources. It already has operations in the country. And just the other day, I'm told they were driving and they saw an open piece of land somewhere around BDC, and they saw a board that said for sale, and they made contact immediately with a view to acquiring that piece of land and setting up their offices there. So it's not just in the power space, but it's in other spaces as well. That's serious commitment from an investor or from a consortium of investors. That's what we're looking for. That is what we now have, a huge opportunity. In the ultimate instance, we want to also reduce the cost of electricity, still leave Botswana Power Corporation profitable, and obviate, which causes a lot of confusion, obviate the need for the subsidy that government has to pay towards electricity. Removal of the subsidy is not throwing the nation under the bus. When we reduce the cost of power to such an extent that BPC can still on-sell the power profitably within very reasonable bounds, it would make it unnecessary, therefore, for government to provide any subsidy. Because the subsidy arises because the cost of procurement of the power that BPC on-sells doesn't match the price at which it is sold. There's a disparity. This divorce between that price and that cost and the price is what government has to step in and cover by way of a subsidy, which amounts to roughly about $75 million per financial year. So when we bring the cost down manageably, without adversely affecting the lay of the land, as in BPC continuing to operate and function and generate reasonable returns. When we do that, not only have we saved on importation, we now save on the subsidy as well. Meaning we would then release $75 million into the economy to do other things. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we ought to have done way back. This is what has thwarted and frustrated any attempts to diversify this economy. And as I've said before, I say it again, we are now forced to diversify under pressure of calamity. We don't have a choice. We have to do it. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. And there always is a hue and cry, raises tempers and tempos and blood pressures because things are not clicking. And there's a lot of noise, lots of complaints, criticisms. Not entirely unjustified. People want things to happen. But those who have to make them happen must not make the noise and must not be swayed by the noise. We focus on delivery. These are the brisk steps we are taking in the direction of delivery, and we are certain that we're on the right track. And that is why I've said, I say it again, that this country will be spectacularly different in 3 years. The first year is gone. We have 2. It's got to happen. One member of parliament was admonishing me today. She says, you are setting timelines that are too tight. You are putting yourself under pressure. Give yourself some more leeway. I said, no. I want to put myself under immense pressure. When your house is burning, you run at breakneck speed. And we are at that point where we should work around the clock. These deadlines mean that we work day and night to deliver. And only after we've delivered would we be entitled to rest and gloat, perhaps, so that we lay a firm foundation for generations that will come after us. This is the situation, folks. And to the press, when you communicate it, please communicate it accurately. State the facts. You are entitled to your opinions. In the legal profession, we don't take anybody's opinion. Before you give opinions, we test, are you an expert? Why are you entitled to state opinions? And if you claim to be an expert, we test your credentials. What makes you an expert? What have you done? Why should your opinions matter? But if you're just an ordinary citizen giving us your unanchored speculations, you're entitled to fulminate. But if you want to be taken seriously and claim expertise, please lay your credentials on the table so we test them first. And if we are satisfied with your credentials, we then might listen to your opinions. That you have a keyboard and a pen or a piece of paper doesn't make you an expert. So sometimes save the opinions. Give us the facts. Let us also state our own opinions because we have them. And we will air them, and this is a democracy. But if you are a member of the press, respect your readers enough to, when you give them opinions, let them be solid. Let them be grounded on fact and evidence. This is all we ask. Thank you very, very much. And if you do that, we will love you even more. We will protect and defend you. But if you don't, and you keep besmirching people's characters, they will sue you. And you'll say people are now anti-democratic. No, they just are pro their reputations and their dignities and their fame sometimes. And so this is what it's about. It's not about hostility. It's about a demand for exacting standards. You must demand exacting standards of us and allow us as well to demand exacting standards of you. So thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press. I thought we should understand these things and understand each other in this manner. I am humbled to be part of this journey. I am humbled to be at the helm. I am lucky to be the one to shepherd this country into this spectacular level of growth. And 2 years, I said, the next 2 years will be decisive. No sleeping. Look at me. You think I've slept? You can tell. You must age every day. If you are sitting pretty, sometimes you can't even eat. You see, then you understand what it's about. You understand. People are catching hell. People are on the downside of the economy. We need to work. We need to change their circumstances. It behooves us all, yourselves included, even the press. When you report, be thorough, be meticulous, probe, take any and everybody to task. Any and everybody to task. Take the minister to task. Take the president to take everybody to task. But make sure you establish the facts and then go on and analyze and assess. That's how these things work. So thank you very, very much. I thank the nation too for their patience and their indulgence. We are getting there. We're getting there fast. This is evidence. There are others who will come. There are many that are coming, each in their space, in their lane, deploying cutting-edge, world-class expertise, internalized, brought down to our country and applied here, so that jobs are created, opportunities are opened and amplified. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that detailed explanation of what brings us here, why we are here, and who we are going into partnership with. At this point in time, I would humbly ask Mr. President to take to the podium again as the members of the press ask questions. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this is your moment to seek any clarification of what you might not have understood. You might do that by raising your hand, stating your name and your media house, and then putting forward your question. We begin now. There's a roving mic over there to help you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name's, for the records, Victor Badwing. I'm from the Sunday Standard. I think it's the PA, not me. Must be the system.
Victor, you want to stand up? I can't,
Okay.
I can't really see you or hear you.
I was saying my name's Victor Badwing from Sunday Standard newspaper. I have two questions to ask. First, the timelines. I understand this is an MOU, not an MOA. So are we going to move to that phase at some point? If you could address that. And then secondly, with particular interest on Morupule B, we know that it's been going through some remedial work that is being carried by the existing contractor. What's going to happen with that? Is this program going to concurrently run with it, or we are going to see a halt to the ongoing work? Thank you.
Two more questions, and then give Mr. President a chance to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name's Paishal Sagale from BTV. I have very pertinent questions that are really pointed to what you have just mentioned. One, BERA at one point had introduced rooftop solar program, which would have seen Botswana being industry players in producing power. How does this program get to involve Botswana in making sure that they become industry players? Two, Stake IP, the company that is already at Murupulebi, which at some point had taken government and the contractor there to court over their intellectual property. How will this partnership work around that IPs and see to it that maybe we don't go back to court again? The third one is the 162 billion that was recently signed over or maybe introduced to the nation. How will it be part of this, and if it will be, what are the conditions and the terms and conditions of the contract if they are going to be part of this, the financiers? The last one, Mr. President, is quite often we hear you in the country, your nation, about not doing right or maybe questioning things that are not, like they're not questioning it the right way. My concern, and maybe that which could be of every Botswana, would be so that we get to align ourselves to your vision. How is it that we may take the leadership to account or maybe to task and maybe get to help us align ourselves with the way we need to be driving the vision or supporting the vision, so that we don't get to continually be like Stanley addressing us as a nation. Thank you very much.
Any other question? There's a gentleman down here.
Good afternoon. My name is Tuto Galizio from Botswana Television. Your Excellency, we welcome that admonishment that you threw to us as the fourth estate, the media. It therefore shows that our relationship is not an adversarial one. If I were to, this was to be my genesis, the genesis of my submission, as it were. During this trip, which to the Middle East, also to the Europe, Switzerland, what I noticed, sir, was the conspicuous absence of maybe strategic ministries, i.e. the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Trade. And I stand to be corrected, Your Excellency. And I'm also concerned by the seemingly the blackout, because I only got to see on state media that you are living on this trade-oriented trip. Maybe I'm being too rigid, but and there's nothing wrong with deviating from the normal, from the norm. During your 10-day visit, we're not really appraised. State media, I tried to check on Botswana Television as to how you were progressing on this three-nation tour. There was not a lot of information coming through. Even today, I was taken by surprise that there's going to be a press conference. But my submission at the end is that I thank you for the admonishment, and I do hope that you will take the reverse from us as the fourth estate, as the mouthpiece of the citizenry in terms of how this whole trade-oriented trip went about. Thank you very much, sir.
At this point in time, Mr. President, you can answer
Thank you very much. Timelines in relation to the Memorandum of Understanding. The due diligence has begun. The due diligence entails being availed access to data, all the data. That will enable, as I said, appropriate solutions and appropriate technologies to be considered and marshaled for deployment. And so the due diligence, an estimate said the due diligence would take 4 months. But with a qualification, which is this: the data that is required is readily available, and access has been instantly availed. With the amount of data that is available, it should therefore be within the pale of reason to expect that the due diligence phase will take much shorter. Anything from a month and a half, 2 months, the due diligence would be done, and solid solutions will then be ready for deployment. Murupule B, you know that it has become a swan song, hasn't it? Billions have gone down the drain there. And it's now been 6 years of remedial action, remedial works being carried out. At a certain point, a line gets drawn in the sand and you say, we can't be remedying all our lives. At a certain point, the remedying must stop. And the remedies must have worked. And if we continue to experience the same problems, I don't know what intellectual property anybody is talking about. But with or without anybody's IP, the line can be drawn in the sand. And so all the rights of the Botswana government in relation to these matters are fully reserved. And I speak as a lawyer now. Put aside the presidential garb, take my gladiatorial garb and say, at a certain point we put an end and we take action, some of it drastic, in defense of the interests of the country. So there shouldn't be any problem in relation to that. BTV, Bearer Rooftop Program. Solutions in relation to the provision of power. And the statistics say access is about 76% of the country. So we have a 24% of the population that has absolutely no access. And so this rooftop approach in power generation was to address in the main that bracket that has absolutely no access. And you deploy solutions that are appropriately tailored for them. And so there is a multiplicity of approaches here. One is the permission of microgrids, which will service certain localities and enable where the power generated in that space exceeds the needs, then for that power to be fed into the grid. And that also involves some infrastructure that will take up that power. That's a program that is ongoing. In fact, the minister is seized with, and she's in the process of raising participants by way of availing financial resources to address exactly this problem. She's advanced in that direction. And so sometimes we are reluctant to share prematurely, lest we be accused of talking without doing. So sometimes we wait until it is done. And in many instances, we may not even talk. You will see things deployed and you will talk. And it is only after you've talked that we will respond and clarify. Because this year and the next are about implementation, delivery, nothing else. So the rooftop program is on. The minister is on it. She's lined up some investors and sponsors for that particular program. And in liaison with BERA and others, she will, at the right time, make announcements, or you will see action. I always remind myself of what Anton Chekhov says. Says, don't tell me the moon is shining. Show me a glint of light on broken glass. The minister will show some glint of light on broken glass and will not tell you the moon is shining. You will tell her it is shining. That's how we want to do things. 162 billion. Let's understand this clearly in this manner, so that we don't confuse ourselves and in turn confound and confuse the populace. When an investor comes and says, I have $12 billion to invest in your country, are you interested? You have a judgment call to make at that point. Do you express interest, or do you say no? You express, you check, you do your preliminary assessment and you say, these are credible. Yes, let's sign so that we start talks now to concretize where your investments will be deployed in a commercially viable way. They are not coming here to donate 12 billion. Business people don't do that. No investor will come here and they are not running charities. They invest. So when they say we have 12 billion to deploy, you must curate projects into which you direct them and channel the investment there. And that is also preceded by due diligence, feasibilities, and all the processes that have to follow. So what this says is we have an opportunity to harness foreign direct investment to the tune of $12 billion. There are certain things we have to do so that this amount of money can then be deployed into investments. It's not a loan to the country. It's not a donation to the country. It is investment, ready, available to be deployed, provided the right conditions are met, which are proper due diligence, assurance of return on investment, and others, some of which are already in place. One of the things that investors want to see is credibility and reliability of the entire ecosystem. No investor wants to put their money, their investment in a place that is unsafe, that is unpredictable, that is lacking in any credibility. Botswana so far ranks very highly in those regards, which is why investors are willing to come here. We need now to do the next, which is when they do come, let's not waste their time and hours and keep them waiting, tossing them from this place and that place. And that is why the Botswana Economic Transformation Program seeks to enable an investor to come in today and indicate what project they want to invest in. And at the best, when it is operating fully and optimally, the BETP will then summon everybody who is required and is implicated in relation to this project to one place, so that when they finish there, they have a decision either favorable or unfavorable. And if it is favorable, then the investor can start the next day. This is what Egypt is doing, by the way. On the African continent, the highest inflows of foreign direct investment go to Egypt. Why? Because Egypt doesn't waste time. You come in as an investor, they assess you on the trot, you are credible, you are solid. 3 days you are on the roll, you are rolling. That's why the investors are interested. They can't park their money and wait for you to go to land board and go to this place and go to deeds registry. Investors don't work like that. They'll take their money elsewhere because you have demonstrated lack of seriousness. So in relation to the 162 billion, this is the situation. The trips, here's what I have realized. If I may be candid with you. I've seen and I've challenged public officers, advised them gently. Sometimes I suspect they were dealing with very difficult people in the past. Because public officers will write you a very elaborate report, summarize everything brilliantly, give it to you, and then they'll come to you and brief you on the same document that they have given to you. And I always ask them, why are you here? And they say, to brief you. I said, brief me on what? On this? I said, no. I tell them, no, I've read. Whatever you tell me must not be what you've put down here. I have read and I've understood. If I have questions, I will ask. If I don't ask, I will go and research myself. You don't need to come and brief me. You've briefed me already by writing. I read. That's why I don't sleep. I read these documents, mountains of them. I read them. I read them thoroughly and I understand them. So that whoever comes to me, don't care who you are a seasoned economist, you're a financial, whatever you are, my wits about me. I'm not daft. I will understand. I have understood from the document. If I have queries, I'll ask. So, when I travel, I trim down the team. I don't want to take the minister, take her away from her core responsibilities, balloon the size of the delegation unnecessarily. Why? Because when I walk around, somebody must be holding my files and my briefcase and must always be whispering to me because I haven't read and I don't understand. I'm not like that. I advise myself because I've read the documents and I can engage meaningfully with whoever. So I don't need a whole delegation. I can go alone, actually, by the way. I'm enough. By myself. Otherwise, I would not be a worthy representative of the bar of Botswana. As an advocate of this, when a foreign jurisdiction wants a legal opinion on any aspect of the law in Botswana, the law itself says you seek the opinion of an advocate in that jurisdiction. If I can render those opinions to foreign countries, I cannot go alone and engage. That would be a terrible vote of no confidence on not just myself, but the legal profession that raised me. So when I travel, I look at the size of, and they know I cut it down. I need myself. I need somebody who will tell me, these are the meetings, this is the place where the meeting is. Ordinarily, I would do that myself, but they insist you must have somebody chaperoning you. You can't run away from some of these. But other than that, the Minister of International Relations has a lot on his plate. There are crises all over the place. And I have to take him because I'm going to discuss investments in Oman, investments in Ras Al Khaimah, investments in Switzerland. I have to be carrying a whole battalion and government doesn't work because it will be said, now you're operating away from, no. I am the chief diplomat of this republic. The foremost, most eloquent spokesperson of this republic is its president. And so when I step out there, brother, I step out in the service of this republic. And when I do so, I leave my all there. That's me. That's how we all must be. Every one of us. You don't need to be chaperoned. You don't need to be... No. You must know your stuff. You must read, you must inform yourself. Information is readily available in this day and age. So sometimes it is nice, it is prestigious to have 20 people around you. No. Where we are, you need a very small delegation of people who are absolutely essential. When I went, I had a Geoscience Institute. I had a few. I had Botswana Development Corporation. Absolutely necessary for the conversations that I was going to have there. And from Oman, with the Omani Investment Authority, on the 26th of November, the head of the Omani Investment Authority will be here to do something pretty much like what we are doing. Projects, delivery. Anton Chekhov, don't tell me the moon is shining. Show me some glint of light on broken glass. That's what I'm showing now. Glint of light. Size of delegation, not important. Have you communicated with the Minister of International Relations? Yes. Sometimes I have to communicate with myself only. That's what the Constitution says. The President can act on his own advice. When he does, allow him. The Constitution has given him that power. There's no problem with it. If you have a problem with it, you change the Constitution. I follow it to the letter and its spirit. But I also save the country a lot of money in the process. That's how we do these things. And so, trade, for, international relations, where they are required, you will see them. Where there's no way of excluding them, even if we wanted to trim down the size of the delegation, they will be there. But where we can do without many of these, we will, and save the country some money. And then the issue of engaging with the media. You see, I have a weakness, really, let me confess to you. And I think it's a normal weakness for every human being. You need to behave to be taken seriously in a manner that shows you yourself take yourself seriously. You see, if all that you are writing is negativity, it is uninformed, it is speculative fabrications, divorced, destitute of even the slightest ounce of truth, then you make it very difficult for anybody to take you seriously, much less myself. I have a difficulty first with listening to a person who has no substance, who doesn't make sense. I find it very difficult. It's like torture. I have an even more serious problem with reading stuff that is not well written. And many of the pieces that you write in your newspapers are badly written. Even the grammar is bad. I'm telling you, I must be honest with you folks. And then, everything is devoid of truth. Do you take yourself seriously as a professional, if that's what you do? Do you deserve then to be taken seriously? I would rather go to the bus rank and listen to those folks there. They make more sense than some of the stuff that you write. Oh, the vice president and the president are fighting. Where were they fighting? How far were you? Oh, this one is about to be removed. Where do you get all these things, folks? Where do you get these things? And you peddle them with such zeal. And investors read these things, and they might also be put off. This is not a serious country. If the president is fighting with the vice president, there's nothing like that. Absolutely. So, all I ask of you is to be taken seriously, and I'm dying, I'm yearning to take you seriously. I want to engage with you folks, but make it worth my while. I have so much to do. As I said, people are catching hell. I can't be spending time talking to people who are bereft of even the most basic understanding of issues. No, that is not something that I'm willing to do. But if you come and you probe, you engage, you admonish, I'm happy. I love these engagements. I'll make time even in the middle of the night for you if that's how you operate. But make it justifiable. That's all I ask, and I'm sure that's all everybody asks. And that is why the discourse now on social media, you see the level of pedestrianism, all the speculations, it's so pathetic. And much of it actually defamatory. That you ask, why are we wasting our time on this? Let's focus on serious issues. So the press, I'm urging you to be more serious, robust. And these days, information is readily available. There's nothing to hide. Don't just write and speculate. Check. What is the data? And it's available. We will avail it to you. You want to know where the president was? I'll tell you. Who I met, I might tell you. Provided you will not go and behind the scenes and go and insult the people, which is what you try and do most of the time. So the negativity is, the toxicity is actually off-putting. So I urge you humbly, please inform yourselves, establish the facts. 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 Understand the space that you are writing about, and then write. That's it. So, the press is free. Sometimes we keep things from you because you might just tell the wrong people and sabotage the efforts. We are competing with others in this space of investment. Sometimes we go stealthily, cut a deal, announce it publicly so that we commit those we've cut it with, and others can see. And you know what that does actually? I have realized. Others come running. Say, oh, okay, the Qataris are coming. The Omanis are here. This massive consortium, there must be something in that country. It helps. Who are the beneficiaries? The country. This is what it's about. And that's how these things work, Bagarun. So thank you very, very much for the engagement. And the requirement is that we must always be informed on any subject, whether it's diamonds, it's rooftop this, it's that, everything. We must always be fully informed around the clock. That applies to you too, not just to me. So when I spend sleepless nights informing myself, I expect you to do the same, so that when we engage, we are almost on the same wavelength. Then we have some beautiful engagement, and the people watching will be very happy and say, this press in Botswana is super. That's what I want. I want excellence. Thank you very much, and I thank you. And I'm always available to talk to you. Thank you.
We thank you, Mr. President, for that candid engagement and for answering the questions with candor. At this point in time, we have come to the end of our press conference. You were given a chance, ladies and gentlemen of the press, to ask questions, and so that you can go right with an informed position. So thank you very much for showing up. I called you at the last minute and you honored the invitation. I do not take that lightly. And at this point in time, I would like to ask Mr. President and our guests, our partners, to pose for have a picture moment. to you, madam.